Sometimes a little change is welcome in our homes. However, many of us are on a budget or simply desire to be good stewards of our resources. Today I'm going to refresh my dining room sideboard and want to share a few cottage-style projects that are both easy and budget-friendly. I hope you'll join me. This first project uses simple photo frames from the dollar store. We are going to build a miniature decorative greenhouse. I used 10 frames for a moderately sized structure. You could certainly make it larger or smaller to suit your space. After removing the backings and glass from the frames, I removed all the little metal pieces that hold in the glass. Trust me on this, it will look much better without them. I then gave all the frames a coat of white chalk paint. Even though they were already white, the texture was just a bit too shiny for me. Once dry, I used super glue to secure the glass inside the frames. I do not recommend using hot glue for this part. I tried it with hot glue and the glass was not secure. Of course, anytime you are working with glass or super glue, please be extremely careful and take safety precautions so as not to injure yourself. You could always use photo frames with plastic inserts if that would make you more comfortable. Once the glue was cured, I created muntins, those decorative grids, by measuring bamboo skewers, cutting them to length, painting them white, and then hot gluing them to the glass. You will want to align your skewers properly before pressing onto the glass, as once that hot glue hits the glass, it's almost impossible to shift them, as the hot glue cools almost instantly. Once the individual frames were finished, I hot glued them into a rectangular box. I chose hot glue for assembly as it offers more flexibility than super glue and dries much more quickly, particularly for the roof, which is glued at an angle. Super glue would be too thin and brittle to hold the roof in that position. To finish, I painted a few more bamboo skewers and added them as trim. The cost of this project was less than $15 for the frames and paint, as I already had the skewers and the hot glue. And as a side note, if you wanted to make a smaller greenhouse with just 6 frames, you could assemble it in this way. Items I always check for at thrift stores are pretty teacups, saucers, and bowls. Teacups were actually one of the very first things I began collecting as a child. They can be used in so many more ways than for food, and actually you should be careful about using old ones for food as they can contain high levels of lead depending on the glaze. But they are great for plants, pens, little bits and pieces of things, loose buttons, really anything. Obviously, they do not have drainage holes, so you may want to keep the plant in a smaller pot that has drainage holes and set that pot inside of the teacup or bowl. Every time I visit a thrift store, I always check for fabric in the form of tablecloths, bed sheets, pillowcases, clothing, anything that could be repurposed into something fresh. I found these oversized pillowcases on a thrift trip one day and knew they would be handy for something. I've been thinking about refreshing the white lampshades on my sideboard for a while now, and decided that this fabric would be a simple, delicate pattern that would leave the shades mostly white, but also add a little more visual interest and coziness. I separated the front and back of one pillowcase and removed any bulky trim at the edge. Then, working around the top of the shade, I tacked the fabric on with hot glue. I trimmed the excess fabric, then tucked the edge under and glued it in place. Turning the shade over, I pulled the fabric taut and secured with more hot glue. To make it more permanent, you could use something like a spray adhesive all over the shade instead of hot glue, but I decided to tack it on with hot glue in case I want to change it someday. I hope this video inspired you to create budget-friendly projects for your own home. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe for more cottage living, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.